Enable. Being watched around the globe, our pictures being seen in so many different countries, photographers from all the newspapers. How tense is John Gosden? I think that tells the story. Takes a little bit to phase him. Now I've got an update for you here at York on Sean Davis. Now I've been told he's conscious, he's talking. Phew, that is good news about Sean Davis. The horse perfectly okay. Sean is coming back to the medical room for further assessment. Any more news we'll let you know about Sean Davis. We have everything crossed, but the good news is he is conscious and talking. As all eyes are now on racing's queen, Enable, the girl with a glittering CV. All eyes on one horse.
We got something special in our hands.
She's the best filly I've ever trained.
She just seems to be getting better and better.
A great of the turf.
The first lady of British racing.
Enable is centre lane.
And it is Enable who is down in front.
Here she comes.
Electric, elegant, Enable. She's spectacular. Enable, incroyable. Enable, the Queen of Europe.
Enable is the goddess.
The Oaks goes to Enable.
She's just a superior athlete.
Racing royalty. The Arc winner is the Breeders' Cup Turf winner too.
She is wonderful.
Enable joins the pantheon of greats, the dual arc winner. Enable makes a triumphant return and wins the Eclipse. She's the real deal. Enable narrowly in front with a furlong to go. Crystal Ocean on the rails. Frankie gradually squeezing every last drop out of Enable. Moves to the front by a head. And Enable toughs it out. The Queen of the Turf won the King George.
Godolphin, home of the Darley Stallions, which down the years have included Dubawi and the late Dubai Millennium. That was Blue Point, the latest addition to the roster, having retired this year. Golden Horn's been standing there for a couple of seasons, and New Approach. We'll see in a moment one of the older horses that stands at Darley Stud. You can see a nice peaceful location, and many top-class horses have been bred from there. So they give their name to the Darley Yorkshire Oaks, part of the British Champion Series, the fillies and mares. We'll be hoping that plenty of horses that race over the course of the 4 days here will be turning up to British Champions Day, of course. Enable unlikely to be one of them. She's a short-priced favourite, and on form she deserves to be. But Crystal Ocean showed signs of that hard race yesterday. Remember
The Darley Yorkshire Oaks, the latest step on the Kipco British Champions Series for fillies and mares, with one superstar mare. Let's hear from her trainer.
Well, this man has just saddled the Queen of the Turf, Enable. Happy?
Yeah, she's in good form. She always gets a little warm crossing the middle here. It's about the toughest lead up in the country. But she's settled down now. She got impatient saddling. Managed to kick out, knock the bucket over, so that shows good spirit.
When you look here to your left, the amount of people that come to look at her, this is what great horses do, isn't it?
Yeah, she's a wonderful filly, and she's running against two other fantastic fillies, particularly Magical. So it remains, look, a superb race. It could nearly have been a match race, but we got two other entries. That would have been interesting. I haven't seen a match race here for years. But no, we're very pleased with her, and she needs this between the King George and the Arc to come up and race and then move on again.
Is there anything about her King George run, because she seemingly had such a hard race, that worries you going into today about what that can offer?
No, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, you don't go to King George and get an easy race. You know, that is very much normal. I mean, Frankie gave her one flick and she's stretched, but she's in good form. She's not a filly who likes to be let all the way down and then brought back up again. Okay. So consequently it makes sense to come here, but I did emphasise to everybody we regard this as a very good race, but a prep race. This is not the be-all and end-all, okay?
What about tactics? How do you see this one unfolding?
I leave it up to the jockey. When the gate opens, you cannot have set plans in a small number of runners. I've seen many saying getting a plan and sticking to it is a disaster quite often. So I leave it to Frankie, and I let he and the filly break and see exactly how they want to play it. That's between them, and it's not for me to impose a rule. Obviously, we discussed it, what we'd like to do, but what you want to do doesn't often work out that way.
And just finally, we're all excited. How are you? Nervous?
Well, you would be. It'd be a little disappointing if you weren't, but it looks like we're all more nervous than her right now. But she's a lively character, and she'll show it well today, I hope.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And a moment that summed the whole thing up was when the crowd clapped Enable as she was just walking round. She hasn't raced yet.
She came in for that first little lap, and she was halfway around this top end, where it is probably 12 people deep up on the far corner here.
Frankie, done everything, seen everything. but he gets nerves, doesn't he, when he rides this wonderful mare?
Well, I think if you don't get slightly nervous, it's time to give up. And one thing I will say is we don't understand how much the last victory took out of him as a rider. Never mind how much it's taken out of his filly, how much it actually drained him.
We'll talk tactics with Johnny Murtagh very shortly. But back to you, Francesca.
Yeah, we'll look at the horses just in a second. Well, they're just coming around here. We have got Magical here, the first of the two Aidan O'Brien runners, and we've also got owners, we've got trainers, we've got jockeys, we've got people who have no connection technically to this race, but they want to come and have a look at these stars. And here she is again. She's got Imran on the other side, she's got Tony on this side. She's got those ears beautifully pricked again. She's just taking everything in. And one of the questions that we talked about was, has the King George taken a toll out of her? Did it take the toll out of Crystal Ocean yesterday? Was he a bit below par when he got beaten in the International? Is Enable going to have suffered any negative effects from that race? So she's had a break. Her trainer's really happy with her. Frankie Dettori just gives her a lovely little pat as he gets on. He says, I'm with you, girl. We're going to go out and look for a bit more glory. And John Gosden here now going to give the leg up to William Buick aboard this wonderful filly, La Tidar. Her mum won this race 10 years ago. She absolutely loves at York. She was a runaway winner of the Galtries here last year. Look, she's got a bit to do, but she deserves her place in the field.
And here is Aidan O'Brien about to leg Ryan Moore up. Shamie Heffernan just walking past me as well. And just a few moments ago, the huddle was taking place. Tactically, this race is absolutely fascinating. And the Ballydoyle-Coolmore team, no stone is left unturned with them. Ryan's about to get on board Magical, the main danger to Enable ahead of the Yorkshire Oaks.
Yeah, there is Magical, and the word is that she's been working really, really well at home. And don't forget that she was supplemented for this race at a cost, and that's what's wonderful about this operation. They're not afraid to take on a superstar. Only 4 runners here, and good horses need good horses to run against. So Magical, yeah, she's been defeated by Enable every time that they've met, but she is as tough as they come, and she will relish this challenge. In behind her, South Sea Pearl, we saw her briefly just getting on her toes. Look at her here, she's throwing her head around. Her jockey, Shamie Heffernan, is just sitting quietly, just keeping the lid on her. The interesting thing with her is going to be where's she going to go in the running. Normally she's quite slowly away. Normally she sits out the back in her runnings, but how are they?
You know, funny things happen. But the second thing I just wanted to say is, on ITV1, do you think there's anyone watching right now thinking John Gosden, who's usually a great orator, has just said this is a prep race? Has there ever been a Group 1 used as a prep race, and should one be used as a prep race?
Wasn't dissimilar a couple of years ago, using this as a stepping stone to the Arc. She went and won it. She's won 4 Oaks in total, 2 King Georges, 2 Arcs, a Breeders' Cup, and an Eclipse. Johnny Murtagh, the key question though is, and you rode for them for 3 years, what are Ballydoyle going to do?
Well, listen, they love a challenge. They're after supplementing this one. They love taking down a champion to show that they have got the champion. Magical is a very tough filly. She's won a Group 1. She's been beaten by Enable a couple of times. Frankie won't be afraid to make the run, and he believes, he knows if he gets in front, he gets easy. I don't think he'll be allowed an easy lead. I think it'll be a bit like yesterday. They'll have one in front of him, he'll be second, and they'll have one behind him, and they'll take him on early. They'll take him on early, they'll make her have a hard race, and they'll try and take her down.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be fascinating. Luke.
Well, she's just coming down in front of us. You wouldn't know that Frankie's nervous at all. He's just shouting over to one of the stalls handlers, just asking, said, would someone just come over and pick him up, because he just wants to keep on. That's actually Dave Wilkie who's going over there. She's not boiling over, don't be worried about that. She's just on her toes, she's just really alert. She'll just come over here and you'll be able to see her, and they'll just lead her back to us. It's wonderful. I just met a lady who's driven 8 hours up from Bodmin Moor, especially just to come up to see this horse, and look at all the camera phones out and all the cameras clicking away. But she is just the most beautiful horse you'll ever see. Frankie, a pat down the neck. Just look at those ears. Look how intelligent she is. She looks at the stall, she's just looking on what goes on around her. It's almost as if she's sussing out the opposition. Frankie, not the least bit nervous. do you know what? I get to see, I'm so lucky I get to go to all these different race courses. But to see something like this, it really is giving me goosebumps. She's magnificent.
And I just love her ears. I am deeply in love with her ears. This is my concern, though, Jason. The King George. Taqrir came here, beaten at 1-5. This had an effect on Chris Lotion, I'm sure. What about Enable?
Well, he has not been able to back up on 1 or 2 occasions before, and it was a massive effort from him yesterday under difficult conditions. Late on, she is on fumes as they come up towards the line. You know, there wasn't that real thrust over the line, and there has to be a question.
I like what Luke was saying at the start there, Johnny. He goes, Frankie, oh, he's not the least bit nervous. But I feel like after that King George day, he exhaled a real sigh of relief, didn't he? But what about today? Is he really not nervous?
Oh, look.
He's like a duck. He's very calm on top, but his legs are going like 90. He's nervous.
He loves it.
To ride these champions, you do not want a mistake that costs them getting a beating. You know what I mean? It cannot be jockey error. You cannot make a wrong move. It has to be perfect. To ride these good horses, you still have to ride them very, very well.
I personally couldn't care less if no one's having a bet. Just look at the crowds, getting every vantage point to see her against Magical, Jason. You like Magical in the paddock. And the fact is, she's not been beaten far by Enable, notably at Sandown.
Look, I'm just playing devil's advocate. We want the champion to continue. But I will tell you, Magical normally gets herself quite aggressive beforehand and a little bit warm. I know it's a much cooler day, but I really like her in the prelims. The way she wandered round, there was a difference in her today.
OK, but this was the Eclipse. This was Enable's first run off a really, really long break. Yes, Magical gets to what within a length of her, but it was arguably not Enable's best distance. They're back over 1.5 miles today. And surely she's up against it, Magical.
I don't think there's not a great deal between them. There really isn't a great deal between them.
And Ryan won't be a happy man, Jason. Just news coming through. On Mums Tipple, who won by 11 lengths, he's been suspended for 2 days for use of the whip when clearly winning inside the final furlong. That's an unusual one.
Well, it's clearly, how on earth can you get days? It's not as if the wind is whistling at whatever 15, 20 mile an hour coming up your tail. He's not going to hear if they're right up behind him anyway.
Is he meant to look round?
It was Magical, third for Lati Dar and South Sea Pearl. Well, it really was a victory procession from quite a long way out. The tactics were to leave her alone in front and then try and launch a challenge that didn't really work, and she didn't really have to work that hard. An ideal prep race for the Arc, her 10th Group 1, her last possible appearance on UK turf. That's the case. She's left those with the Knavesmire with more memories to add to those that we saw when she won the Oaks, the Irish Oaks, a previous Yorkshire Oaks, 2 King Georges, and of course around the world on the Breeders' Cup turf and the Arcs. A delightful horse, very uncomplicated. When she's asked to go, she goes, and she can sustain a burst of pace. It's all gone according to plan. The script was written, everyone had read their lines. Frankie Dettori and Enable. Breezes home. No danger of a scrap like we had in the King George.
Oh, phew. And if it is goodbye from racing in this country, how about that, Johnny Murtagh, for a way to do it?
Yeah, Ed, it was over from the start. As soon as nothing pressured him in front, Frankie got in front. There's no better jockey in the world. When Frankie gets in front, he just sits there, sitting again, or let her use that powerful stride. Got to the 2 marker, asked him for a little bit. She stretched again. Looks like Magical was coming, but she was well on top at the end. And that was a lovely, lovely race to win, and it should leave her absolutely spot on for greater things to come. But there you can see him in full flow. He's just different, this guy, Frankie Dettori.
I think you can kind of sum it up in 3 words, Jason. It was simple, she's superior, and it was a sublime performance.
Well, that's a lot of words, but I will say...
3 big words.
Frankie Dettori, in the mornings, years and years ago, Luca Kamani sent him across to California, going round Clocker's Corner repetitively. This is the walk that he's had to do repetitively as well, to go and please the crowds, to give them the opportunity. But that grounding he had was the best.
These are pictures that will go round the world. Photographs you'll see all over the newspapers. Frankie and a horse. He has taken to new places. He's got new people watching the sport thanks to this horse. You boys will talk about Frankie, but for me, this is all about the mare Enable and memories of Frankel. Look at this, same colours, same situation, parading in front of this adoring York crowd, Francesca.
And today, Ed, winning another Group 1. She has matched Frankel's record of 10 Group 1 wins. Yes, she's not undefeated, but I've got to say, she's just as good as him, isn't she?
You know, even just at the walk, the way that she's still willing, after running her heart out over a mile and a half, she's still looking forward. The next, that's something else that's going to interest her, taking it all in, soaking up that everything is put in front of her.
I can't wait for a man who was exhausted after the King George. He was mentally drained. I imagine now, Ollie, he'll be full of emotion.
I'm sure he will. A superstar jockey and a superstar horse. Frankie, sum this incredible mare up for us.
I'm really tearful because... oh, sorry. It's the last day she'll be running in England, so special.
It really is, and the journey you've both been on, you've ridden some wonderful horses throughout your career, but this one's got the X factor, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing. And let's go for the Arc. Yeah, I'm emotional because she's so good.
Frankie, I mean, you're an incredibly colourful character. I've never seen you react like this, and this is what great horses do to all of us. They touch us, don't they?
Amazing. She's amazing. And the turnout is fantastic.
Listen, I'll let you go, and you're going to get a well-deserved cheer. Frankie and Enable, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, my goodness, I imagine that got you at home as well. He's your great mate, Jason. Have you ever seen him like that before?
Well, he was emotionally, physically drained after her last success, but that's as
is it the
rich
pressure,
as it's got to be.
Jason?
I think it's the whole situation. He understands. He knows where he is in his career. He knows what it requires and what it means to be involved with a trainer, an owner, and a horse as big as this.
If ever a situation didn't need words, this is it. Enable, thank you. Literally every vantage point taken. Look at the scrum around the paddock here, Johnny. This is magic.
Yeah, it's magic. When these great horses come along, they don't come along often, you know, but this is a team, owner, trainer, jockey. They've a lot of good horses, but this one is that extra special. She turns up every time. We're always wondering, can they beat her? Are they going to try something else to beat her? But she pulls it out of the bag.
And she makes it look easy, doesn't she? I mean, I imagine it was Frankie's plan, or John Gosden's plan, to be prominent, to go forward, and thankfully she was allowed to dictate from the front.
How cool in the sporting arena, whatever you're involved in, to say that we have just seen a prep for the next step here, and it was something spectacular. It's just amazing.
She's a raider for a third arc. That's going to be someday in Paris. Can she make history then? And she's about to do, I love the way they do this, Lord Grimthorpe, the chairman, and William Darby, the boss here. She'll have a lap of honour round here, like a Wimbledon champion will have one. And everyone's getting a position to applaud her when she gets that lap of honour as Tony Proctor gives her a well-deserved drink.
And I'm enjoying the smile on